Hello, welcome to another wonderful show. Today I have some great people here that I'm excited to share with you. And it is Bill McKenna of Cognomovement creator and Liz Larson, she's Cognomovement co-creator. And they are hosts of New Life Perspectives on UK Health Radio, as well as authors. So Bill is author of The Only Lesson, and Liz is author of Suffering is Optional and The Tiny Book of Big Manifesting. Now, I found this Cogno movement on Gaia TV and had the most wonderful experience that I had to write about it in my book, Superpowers. And ironically, Bill is on the back of my book as an endorsement. I reached out to him and we ended up working together. So let me explain what Cogno movement is, and we're going to dive in and give you an experience of a lifetime. It creates miracles with Cogno movement, one of the most effective tools for life-changing results. Break the pattern and you break the problem. Cogno movement is designed to produce rapid and powerful results in addressing a wide range of chronic problems and emotional patterns, including mental acuity, cravings, habits, repetitive thought patterns, stress, relationship issues, low energy, sleep, weight, and moods. I think we covered a lot here. It's gaining global recognition among healthcare providers, including psychotherapists, thank God, speech therapists, behavioral specialists, physicians, acupuncturists, and a valuable tool for any practice. In fact, I think high school counselors should even have this. Any mentor, any therapist should be using this technique. Cogno movement gives you all more creativity. Oh gosh, if you have any idea, we're going to find out that. Energy, increased focus, higher concentration levels, and it's an athletic enhancement. So I want to say I'm definitely a testimonial for Cogno movement, which is why I wrote about it in my book. I had a session with another practitioner named Annette, and I announced to her after the session that I was going to finally write that book I always dreamed of writing. And now I'm an award-winning best-selling author. So it was a trigger from that experience using Cogno movement that got me where I'm at, okay? And it's changed my life so much that I did write about it, and I brought them here to talk to you and share this wisdom and knowledge. I believe our future will be Cogno movement integrated with mental health around the world and should be featured in schools for our children to benefit, as well as senior citizen centers, in order to hit all the generations and in between. So let's bring it to the colleges too. The world is finally ready for the Cogno movement revolution. Welcome, Liz and Bill. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Noelle, thanks for having us.
Yes. So I have to ask, my very first burning question is, how did you come up with this concept? I want to know what you went through. Did you download it? Did you have a dream? What happened?
Well, start, Bill, with what happened.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, a long, sordid tale. I mean, there's a pretty circuitous path that Liz Larson and myself took to get here. Both of us, we live in different parts of the United States, and we both took very different paths for this all to come to life. My path was an inadvertent spiritual awakening. I had no business in this particular field. I was very much in high tech, automating businesses of all kinds. You name it, tens of thousands of businesses, automating every possible aspect: accounting, inventory, point of sale, the customers, the payment processing, warehousing, distribution, multi-store chains and automatic fulfillment of inventories. So every possible aspect you can think of in the high-tech arena in automation was what I did. And I ended up basically having this experience where I had an awakening that I didn't really want. I just kind of happened. And with it, my life really kind of flipped very abruptly, very aggressively. The best way that I could describe it is that I went from serving myself to serving others. And it was basically compelled to do that. The information to be able to help other people um, came to me very easily. And they say, when the student's ready, the master appears. And it wasn't just talk. I ended up a lot of these. The only appropriate word for them is master. The amount of information that they had and what they could do was just absolutely kind of biblical, mind-blowing. I can't believe that's even true. That's only in Marvel Comics. It doesn't exist in real human life, but ended up finding out it was true. It was real. And anyway, I studied as much as I could, and then things just started coming in. And at one point, Cognomovement was it came in, and it came in as a just a like one of those, like, you know what, I think this is going to work. And I ended up trying it out, and I had just an amazing result. The very first session was a guy that I was going to pick him up. Known him since I was 18. We're going to pick him up from his house and take him to the airport. And as the trade was, hey, you'll do a session with me, that for me to test my new idea. And so we tried out this idea, and I said I didn't even know what it was about, his problem. But I said, hey, whatever your problem is, your biggest problem in your life, I want you to just focus on that. And I had this little ball that my wife made up, special, and it had certain colors and symbols on it. And I started this process where I had him to catch the ball and focus on the big problem. Within a couple minutes, his belly button got super hot, like he said, and it made me laugh. Right? He was like, my belly button's hot. And he was sweating profusely. I mean, it's completely drenched in sweat. It was only a couple minutes, and the ball is this big, and it's just a little ball of cotton. And his belly button was incredibly hot. I'd never heard that in my life. And a few minutes later, there was this. He was like, "I'm having a heart attack." I was like, "No, you're not. Keep going. Focus on the problem." And then a couple minutes later, he literally, I can't breathe. He was like choking. And his heart, I said, "How's your heart?" He said, "Heart's fine. I can't breathe." And then it went to his forehead. He said, it's an extreme, like, ice pick in the head forehead. And then whoop, it was out of his head. And anyway, it was very confusing for him, because afterwards he was like, I can't feel it anymore. I just very confused about this, because it was my biggest problem, and now I can't feel it. It's not a problem. Fast forward, several months, and him and his wife come over, and his wife starts talking about all these great things that they did financially. Like they bought a couple houses in Utah, and they were positive cash flow day one. And they had this other part of their property that they turned into a rental in their regular house, and that was bringing an income. And there was all kinds of income coming in, and they were paying everything off. And what I said, the wife said to me, "Hey, this all became possible after that thing you did with him." I said, hey, what was that? Well, by the way, what was that you were working on? And he said, well, I was coming up on the age of retirement, and I thought, I'm going to buy a trailer and live out in the desert, in a trailer, and he had these visions of, him in a trailer drinking whiskey and the screen door in the wind and the tumbleweeds going by, and just wasting away, kind of that that methamphetamine desert lifestyle, So anyway, but it all changed. Now several years have passed. They retired, and he said, I got more money than I could spend every month. Everything changed. So that was the very first session. But the first call I made there was Liz Larson, and Liz was, her brain. She's, got this thing, her brain. She's very active and connects dots, and she's very good at it. And anyway, it exploded, and there's so much more that happened. But Liz, tell them about how you got here.
Well, I mean, I got to be honest. I was born this way. I was that kid that at 5 years old, I remember people asking me questions or asking me for advice weirdly. And I would think, why are they asking me this? I have no idea. But then I knew the answer. But most of my life, I pretended that wasn't the case. And I did everything else to do anything but be that person. Except for that every last thing I did in my life, from the time I was 5 years old, every bit of education I got and experience led me to this place. So I know for sure that this is what my life was meant to be, is Cognomovement. And at the time that I met Bill McKenna, a lot had happened and everything had set me up to be in a place where I could help build this business. But it wasn't just that. My parents both had brain diseases at the same time. My mom got Parkinson's. My dad had Alzheimer's. And I was looking for a way to save their lives. So I was in master NLP training at the time, and I would drive to Seattle every month and back. And on the way to training, I would be listening to books on audio about how to work the neurology. And so I learned everything I could and know way more about neurology than a non-doctor has any business knowing. But within that year, within 12 months of then, is when I met Bill McKenna. And within 6 months or 8 months of that, he said, hey, I got this weird idea. Well, everything I'd been learning in my life until that point, I said, I know what that is. And when I put my attention on it, we were literally able to expand that first idea probably 1,000 times in the first 3 months. And you asked something, Noelle, is it channeled? Is it downloaded? And Bill and I joke about this, but really, yeah. We'll be looking for another answer for another way to serve a population like the brain injured kids that we were talking about off camera. And the next thing we know, that pops into one of our heads. And one calls the other, and it goes from there, and then it expands into something amazing within sometimes minutes. So that's really how Cognomovement has worked and still works.
It sounds like synchronicity after synchronicity is happening. And that, oh God, I'm getting the chills. That's when magic occurs. And if you're looking, listening, and paying attention, that's when you are directed where to go next.
That's exactly right.
Oh, and so Liz, I have to ask you this. Are you left-handed?
I am completely ambidextrous.
So am I. That's exactly, I feel like when you're ambidextrous, you operate with more sides of your brain, right? You're using more channels. So it's funny. So I know I've been able to do things like I can do math in my head. I can do strange things that a lot of people can't do. And when I would ever play ping pong or smash ball, I would play with 2 paddles. Like I always did things, and I played softball. So when somebody threw me a ball, I wouldn't even have to look. I could just catch it with either hand, like a pair of keys or whatever. I'd just be like, how do you do that? Like, I don't know. It's the field. I feel it or sense it.
Yeah.
So you, I think, are actually using those extra sides of your brain to help do some of the development here, I would say. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. So what Bill was saying there, I have some interesting way that my brain works, that I'll often read 3 or 4 books at a time, sometimes listening to one, sometimes reading one, right? But out of those books, I'll extrapolate pieces that create something new. So I can take disparate pieces of information and turn them into something else. And I think that's a big part of what's helped us so much, because we can just quickly put together lots of pieces of information and make it useful very quickly.
I understand that too. When I read the book, I felt like I was grabbing data out of the air from all these different resources that I was pulling in, like codes and symbolism, and just all these things were coming at me. And I'm like, okay, I got that piece and I got that piece. And it was connecting dots, putting the puzzle together. So I have to ask, when you guys came up with the chakras, that's what's on the ball. I want to show the ball. And Bill, when you were describing it going to his throat, that was his throat chakra. Then it went to his third eye chakra. Then it went to his crown chakra. So it literally is going through the channels, the gateways, right? So who came up with this feeling of putting Mr. Bill? Mr. Bill did.
Yeah, that was one of the first things that happened. And it's interesting. We were just talking about this, Bill. Do you remember what you told me about the reason for putting them on the ball?
Oh, yeah. Well, I knew a couple things. I mean, it's like information like comes and kind of like Liz, all kind of connects and just shing, 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 that's how it kind of feels to me. Mm-hmm. Like shing, shing, shing. And then kind of fits together. Well, in this particular case, I had known, because kind of the drinking through a fire hose, that I had been doing, I had known that, mandala, which is, some people have seen these, right? Tibet, where it's a very intricate pattern. Kind of looks like a square, and and with like 4 parts coming out of it, super intricate. But it is a top-down look through the chakras. So as if you were looking from up here, the symbols are actually, you're looking through the entire thing, and they look at it as the gateways, right? These are gateways. I knew that when people stare at these things, that they can have an awakening just by staring at them alone. You see a lot of people with artwork in their house and that sort of thing. Quite beautiful, quite mesmerizing. But encoded within it, it has the ability to actually awaken the energy system, because it's ours and it's universal. So there is the other view, which you see very often, and you'll see those symbols on the ball. It's broken out. So instead of looking this way, top down, you're looking actually at it, like the throat and the chest and so on and so forth. And these are representations of the energy that is within those particular areas. Every single different energy center vibrates at a different frequency. And so every frequency, these frequencies, has a color associated with it. It goes from a very high frequency, and then kind of like a transducer, goes down lower, 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 until the base, the base chakra, our energy center, is red and vibrating at the lowest and slowest. Interestingly enough, myself and Liz, years later, after the advent of standard Cognomovement used for so many purposes, the list goes on and on, But we're able, another download that Liz came with, and then I had added to, was that the understanding that things manifest and go through this energy system, they go from thought to thing. And as they go from thought to thing, they become more and more dense. And they go through literally this energy system that's inside you. And we've figured out a way to basically accelerate that. That's just another one of those. We call it Cogno Quantum, and it's been a blast.
So before we get off the chakra symbols, there's one other big thing that happens with this. It's a complex geometric symbol with the left part of the brain really likes. And also the color speaks to the left part of the brain. And then the right part of the brain likes this 3D and kinesthetic touch. So this little ball does all those things, activates all the chakras, the mandala part of the body and the spirit and all of that. But the brain is being activated at the same time, the left and the right hemisphere. So this little ball does a whole lot of things. It looks like just a funny little soccer ball with some colors on it, but it packs a punch immediately when it's being used.
Oh yes, because when I've used it, it's almost like a holographic field I can see through. I'm a whoa. and it's funny, on my book, I have sacred geometry. And it's funny because I got 5 book covers to choose from. And when I saw this one, I felt it in my body, like, you know? And I honestly think it might be the 12th chakra. I think it is. Or I know it's,
That's
it's
a beautiful cover.
Thank you. It feels like it lights up when people are holding it, like it's alive, you know? So I want to hear also what else, or whatever you hearing and seeing and witnessing with your clients experiencing this. Because Bill and I had a session. Like, I found Bill, got him on the phone. I drove down to San Diego within an hour that day, and he worked with me for several hours. We had a huge breakthrough. I do write about it in the book, and it was amazing. And I thank you again, Bill, because like you had come back from Mount Shasta and we're just like, I'm kind of just recovering, but okay, I can't return someone down. So I want to hear what you're experiencing with these success stories. Why don't you share, Liz? Because I want to hear from you, and then Bill can share. How's that?
It depends on the topic and the day. There's a million different things. I'll share one that just happened to pop in my mind. Lots of times we get the opportunity to work with children. And one of a person that we work with who's a physical therapist, a doctor of physical therapy, her oldest daughter has a little bit of vision trouble. And so she came to see me just for about 20 minutes a week, because little kids, it's hard for them to work for so long. So we worked with her and we did what's called resetting her eyes. So we're looking for parts of her vision which actually equal parts of her brain that aren't quite working well. And sometimes that's just from a little bonk on the head, a little minor concussion. Sometimes it's actually something from birth. It can be, the neck is a little out or something like that. And on and on and on the reasons. So we started working with her. And in week 3, I was talking to her while we were working her session. So I'll show you, I'm kind of moving the ball and I'm evaluating her vision and we're talking. And with little kids, you kind of distract them a little. So I was talking to her about what she'd read recently. Well, I knew that her mom was working with her on reading things and that her vision was a problem. But she starts talking to me about Mary Poppins and that she's literally read, I think, 4 out of 5 of the entire volumes, the whole book of Mary Poppins. And while I'm working, I'm thinking to myself, I thought we were having trouble with vision and reading was hard. So I asked her mom, I said, is this normal that she's reading? We figured it was almost 50 pages a day in some cases. I mean, like crazy. And her mom said, no, absolutely not. I didn't even know that she was reading that much. So in just some short sessions, we corrected something in her brain vision complex that allowed her to just read. And over the summer, since then, I think they said she's read something like 12 books, like just unbelievable. And oh, by the way, she's 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, that's pretty amazing. Reading. The more that you read, the more educated you are, the more advanced you are. This is a lot of people I know have a hard time reading, hard time focusing, hard time concentrating.
Mhm.
When I was in high school, I took a speed reading class, and we just kind of used these 2 fingers and went really fast across. So I'm kind of sharing this with you all so you can kind of maybe practice it on your own, because I don't think it's really taught anymore. And you're not going to always retain things, but you retain more than you think. And that's
Mhm.
why I tend to highlight my books. I tend to tab them so that I can go back and resource it. And it just seems like everybody that you're working with, I'm finding, is having these miraculous breakthroughs, and they're like creating new lives, becoming new people. It's I felt like being ambidextrous, I felt like I was pretty tapped in and tuned in and turned on. But once I started doing the ball, I started having, it's almost like there was my field was getting more cleared. My aura was being, fulfilled completely and realigned. So, Bill, what are you finding with people that you've worked with?
A woman, she had lost her eyesight. It was in a communist country. Her father had said something about the leader of the country, and they decided to put the entire family into uh, uh, basically a concentration camp, like a hard labor camp. And this is the husband, the wife, the kid. And the kid was only 9 years old at the time, female. And um, and the comment was about the leader was basically that, oh, they're just a human, and that was enough to get him sent to this hard labor camp. The uh, process for executions in this country was such that they needed a witness, and they approached the mother. And I'll still to this day, I don't understand it, but they said, listen, we need a witness for the execution. And the mother's like, okay, yeah, have my daughter witness it. So there's this little 9-year-old, she goes up and they execute the person in front of her, and the blood sprays the girl, passes out, wakes up blind, can't see. Now, by the time I met her, she was almost in her 50s. She was late 40s. And the Chinese, acupuncture and different medicines had gotten a little bit of sight back in one eye. So blind in one, little bit of sight in the other, and extremely sensitive to the point where the had to wear dark glasses and a hat, and so over the course of about an hour and a half, I worked doing a Cognomovement session just on the eye exercises. And amazingly, the hat came off, the glasses come off, and all the vision came back 100%. Was dancing, and um, that was a really amazing session. We found that we had to move extremely slowly. It was so interesting. The woman was so concerned about everybody. She was volunteered to come in to be, used as a person to practice on during one of our practitioner trainings. So our practitioners are all there witnessing, this happen. But she was, what a selfless woman. She would like, oh, and the site's getting better and better. And she's like, I can't take any more time. I can't, this is, everybody else needs the attention, not me, and so, just let us please continue and help and let the miracle happen, and just worked it, and
Wow.
she ended up getting it back. But that one was really kind of a, what a heart-wrenching type story, but a very amazing ending, because she wasn't faking it. I mean, she went outside and she's in the light, and everything, and she was dancing around laughing. I mean, it was really shocking. It was
A
shocking.
miracle. You literally created, like, witnessed a miracle in a
Yeah,
way.
really, really amazing.
And I want people to understand this. This is really big. If you have something going on your body, whether it's a shoulder issue or a foot or a knee or something, it's because you have an energy blockage or something traumatic happened to you to cause this blockage. And it could be from even a past life. And you need to clear it. Basically, once you clear it, you open the channel up, right? And that's what I'm getting the chills as I'm saying this. You're opening the channels to have everything connect through your central nervous system, through your brain, through your spinal cord, right? That's what I'm seeing is happening when we do this work. And I want to know. So you can focus on so many things. You said weight loss, removing a bad habit out of your life. What are the other things that this has worked for? That because you have a lot of different ones.
Well, there's so many crazy things. Like Liz and myself were talking, and it was like, for example, cravings. We've discovered that the world has it upside down. You're supposed to resist the chocolate cake, or not be obsessed with that guy or girl, or you don't chew your nails. I need to chew my nail, right? Whatever it might be. But we figured out that if you allow yourself to feel it and do the Cognomovement exercise, literally, you don't feel it anymore. Imagine that. Imagine, I handed a ball to every one of my nieces and nephews that go off to college. And I say, listen, when you're gonna have some dates, you're gonna, and things are not gonna go well sometimes, listen, okay, you break up on Monday, mourn on Tuesday, you do your Cognomovement sessions Wednesday, you're back out at the party on Thursday, ready for the weekend, baby. So it's like, you don't have to, is Liz Larson's book, suffering's optional. Once you understand, literally, there's people watching around the globe at this right now, and they're like, wait a second, did you say I don't have to hurt about that ex-lover or maybe it's pizza? It's like, I'm a diabetic.
Or smoking. Get rid of that habit. Like,
Or
change
all
that habit.
three. There could be all three at one time.
Right. So, the thing is that right now it's like the willpower. No, don't text them. Don't pick up the phone, right? Don't do it. Actually, imagine you don't care anymore. You don't feel it.
There's some, I'll expand on that just a little bit, Noelle, because you wanted to know all the things. So let's expand on a craving. Like if you lose a boyfriend or girlfriend, a lot of that is grief. And Cognomovement is excellent for changing the grief pattern in the body. So a person, they can go through what happens in their mind around grief, but their body doesn't actually have to suffer. And so those are some of the stories that are the most profound. I used it for myself. My parents died 35 days apart. And if you know how to access the nervous system, you can change it. You can rewire it, reprogram it, and you can collapse the pattern, the neural pattern that makes the body hurt or crave something or someone. So those are two things. Cognomovement's amazing at opening up the brain. Ideas and inspiration are just one of them. I use it daily because I like the creativity, the ideas that come. But it also can just harmonize the left and right side of the brain for learning. And one of the big things that happens is Cognomovement immediately turns on 3 learning centers in the body, the auditory, the visual, and the touch, the kinesthetic. And we all learn differently in some combination of these. So when it comes to studying, like reading or studying for a test, or going to college, or getting your driver's license, whatever it is, if you can turn on those learning centers while you're learning, you can store that information and then actually be able to recall it. The truth is, we all have an eidetic memory. It's just that most of us can't retrieve the file. So with Cognomovement, we know how to retrieve those files easily. And when you use it just for learning, you're able to retrieve those files so much easier. But along the lines of retrieving files, trauma is a big one. And the basis for it, the reason for it, a lot of people have no idea what the basis is. They just know they have trauma. Well, when we use the system, we can actually access the files, the memory files, not just in the brain, but in the whole body, the whole nervous system. And lots of times people will see an incident or a series of incidents that they think are the cause for their trauma. And then they realize, oh, wait a minute, that's not even what happened. That person never hurt me. That person was always there for me. That person actually loves me more than anyone else. We've heard all of those stories. So trauma can be collapsed as quickly as a craving, even a lifelong trauma, because the nervous system can be accessed and rewired so that it doesn't give all of its energy to those neural patterns. So for that reason, we can help athletes. We can show the system how to create a move that would take months to get programmed in by memory. We can do that in about 3 minutes because it's all the same system. That's why Cognomovement can be used for so many, many things, because it works on the nervous system, which is how we interact with the world. It's how we perceive and receive everything. So that's why, the list of things just keeps expanding. I'm sure I forgot some, but there's many.
That's amazing. I love hearing these stories, and working with talking to other practitioners, they're seeing so much happen with their clients as well, and that's why it keeps expanding. When I feel like we have universal expansion unlimited, basically, once you start to open up these gateways, and that's why everybody's creativity can go through the roof, and you're infinite. Like, there's so much happening just from this beautiful, colorful rainbow ball alone. And we've got to do a session, and so we can kind of teach people how it works, show them how it works. If you have a ball at home, you might want to grab it, right? They could use a ball or a pen. They recommend, I think, a pen, right?
Yeah, just something to focus your attention on just for this little session. If you're going to dig in and do sessions, a Cogno ball is really essential. But for now, just a pen, an object.
Okay, so we're going to do that. I do want to make note here. They have a Facebook page. They also do this several times a week, I think, right? You all do, where you do a session, a free session, correct?
Actually, there's tons of them on Facebook. If you go on, you can look for them. We
Okay.
usually do a free Cogno hour about once a month now.
Okay, now it's once a month. Okay, so you can do a live session, ask questions. And I've done the live sessions before. It's kind of a magic because you're literally doing, I would say, a quantum exchange of energy with other people around the world. And it's more impactful, I felt, because it was a live quantum entanglement of sorts, that you were able to move a lot of energy together. So once you do this, you're going to find results and downloads happening after for multiple days, possibly. It's almost like it speeds up the energy flow around you because you've cleared the blocks or cleaned the holes in your aura field. So just get prepared to expect to have a lot of, maybe keep a notebook handy. That's what I do. And I end up writing a lot of ideas and information that I couldn't see or understand before. You might hear some information about a family member or a friend, like you didn't understand what was going on, and then all of a sudden you'll get the answer. Like that's how it works for me anyway. I don't know about you all, but then I go, oh, now I can forgive them and let them just be who they are. And I didn't see it the way they saw it, and now I see it the way they saw it or experienced it. So we are going to do a superpower creative. Are we going to do session or
let's just do something
inspiration?
really, really simple that opens up the ideas and inspiration parts of your brain. Everyone has one. Most of us just don't know how to access it.
Okay. Yay. Let's activate those superpowers. I'm going to stand up because I'm going to totally do this.
Okay. You want me to do it, Bill? Or you want to do it?
I'd like you to do it, Liz.
I'll do it.
Okay. You're going to sit down and do it, or do it? Here, I'll put it on.
No,
okay. I'm going to do it with you, but I'll put it on you.
Because
put it on
if
you.
I stand, you can't see me. So,
Okay.
All right. So you're going to take whatever object you have. I can't find a pen, but let's say that you have a pen. I'm going to use my ball. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to utilize a natural part of the body's system to disconnect a little bit from the body for right now and open up what are our own natural ideas and inspiration areas of our system. So I want you to think about something that's going to happen next week. Now, I guarantee you, your eyes just went up. Think about it. When we say think, we'll often do something like this. And we maybe look to the left and we maybe look to the right. What are we doing? We're accessing the part of the brain that can create for us either something in the future or something in the past. It also can access some other kinds of memories here. But this eyes up position really does put us in a place where the body's ready to take in new information, where it can also make its own new connections. This is really important. Now, most of us have our eyes down all the time, looking at this, looking at that. Now, as we get older, our visual reference gets smaller and smaller, and we see perspectives way less easily. Talk about older people that they can't see anyone else's perspective. It's literally because their visual reference has become about here. So we're going to open that up. So take whatever pen, whatever you have in your hand, and put it right in front of your face. And make sure that you're nice and relaxed. Your shoulders are relaxed. And take a big deep breath in and begin to move that item up over your head until your eyes are up, just about like this, but your chin is down. And take a big deep breath. Immediately telling the nervous system down regulate. When your nervous system is calm, this part of the brain is more likely to open. So now you're going to move it just slowly, slowly, slowly over your eyebrow to the right. And let your eyes follow. If you're looking at the screen now, you can see my eyes are pretty stretched over to the right, like I'm looking through my eyebrow. Now, if they're not, pull that item back towards your head and breathe for me. Good. Now pull that item down around the side of your face, right equal to your ear, and breathe. Now you might be noticing that your eyes are a little sore, and that's really, really normal. We don't do this with our eyes. All right, bring the ball down under your chin. We're going to move back up across the face to the left side. Let your chin be down and your eyes be up, and breathe. Really let your eyes stretch. It could be a little challenging, and that's okay. Breathe. The oxygen to your brain is going to help you with that ideas and inspiration. Now move the ball just over your left eyebrow here and breathe. We're actually using muscles in the eyes and parts of the brain that don't get used. Move down here equal with your eye Let your eyes really stretch and breathe. And then let that item come down around. And just for a moment, let your head drop and your eyes rest. Breathe deeply. Good. Let your eyes rest just another few seconds. And now pull that ball right back up over your head again and let your chin drop. Now notice if it's a bit easier right now. Notice if your eyes feel a little clearer. Really good. All right. Now we're just going to tick-tock to the left and the right. Breathe for me. And you may notice that parts of you feel just a little lighter. You may even feel a little bit dizzy. That's good. We don't usually put this much oxygen into our brain and our eyes at one time. Tick-tocking left and right. Really good. Pull it back down the front and let your head rest and your eyes rest. You can even cup your eyes or blink them. Breathe. All right. So our big finale here, this is just a short one. You're going to breathe in and pull that ball back up over the head. Now this time, raise it up just a little higher above your head. You're not going to be able to see it because my camera's not that high. But just a little higher above your head, left and right. Tick-tocking your eyes all the way left, all the way right. We're shifting hemispheres of the brain. We're putting the eyes in the position of the ideas and inspiration where the brain can make new connections. We're giving the brain and the body extra oxygen. Don't forget to breathe. And we're opening parts of the brain that just have not been used since you were a child, most likely. Breathe. All right, just 3 more passes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a big deep breath. Pull it down and let your head rest and your eyes rest. Now, while you're here, move your shoulders around, shake it off a bit, maybe even give your chest a thump. You want to let the nervous system fully reset. And just notice how your head feels. Notice if things feel a little bit brighter, if things feel a little bit calmer in your system. Notice if it's easier to breathe. You may notice that your body feels more relaxed. You can let your arms stretch all the way out. Give yourself a big yawn. That's a great way to get your system to reset. What'll happen next is in the next hour or so, all of a sudden you'll realize that you're way more creative, that you have way more ability to put things together. You might even create a masterpiece in the next few days. We've absolutely had that happen. So just start to notice how much more on point your creative part of your brain is. And notice how much more interested you are in what's happening in the world around you. So that's just a little tiny idea. You know what, Noelle? It's incredible what happens. When even one person does Cogno movement, they change what I like to call the vibrational soup of the whole family. We interact with each other's energy all the time. These neural patterns, they are creating a field, each one of them all the time. And they'll either punch people right in the face or welcome them in. So what we find is that when one family member does a Cogno movement session and breaks out of their own habits, their own neural patterns, their own perspective, they'll get home and everybody in the house seems different. And literally they are, because how we interact with each other is way more based on each of our energetic outputs than anybody has ever considered. Bill worked with a little boy who had a concussion. He was 13. And it literally changed the way the whole family interacted. The family was leaving as much as they could because everybody was interacting in such a really a rubbing up against each other in the worst way. When this little boy was able to release neural patterns because of a concussion, that's why he had the session. But what it did is it cleared the pathway for him to have a great relationship with his sibling, with his dad, with school, with himself, with getting up in the morning. Their family life is completely, completely different. So if a whole family works, everything changes exponentially. You can only imagine. And we've worked with many, many families, and that's what happens. It's their whole life changes. Yeah. We have right now we have our essentials, which is, how you get your ball and learn the basics for changing pretty much anything you want in your life. And then there are other modules that go with it for whatever you're interested in. So right now, that whole system is being rebuilt, but cravings is available and relationships is available. And there's also a way to have way, way more love in your life. This is a huge issue, which is why we created this module. People don't feel loved and they don't love themselves, but there's a really easy way that you can. And when that happens, everything changes. We just heard from one of our practitioners who's been doing this a long time, and she just did this one love process, and it changed the way she eats now. There was something about not quite fully being who she is, not being whole in loving herself, that she wasn't eating in a way that was the most resourceful. And she said it was automatic. She didn't go on a diet. She just started to change. And she said, all of a sudden, she feels so much more confident in her body. So that's the Essentials program. We also have Cogno Quantum, which is how to use Cogno movement to affect your manifesting in a quantum way. And you guys, these are all physical things. We teach you how to use the information that's in your body to change absolutely everything. So those are the static courses we have. Right now, Cogno Conscious is coming up, which is our one big live in-person event a year. And it takes you from shame to enlightenment all the way through for 4 solid days. It is, we keep saying life-changing, but this literally changes your consciousness to a way that it feels like reality has shifted. And really, in fact, it has. So those are the things we have available right now. We have 2 free ebooks. Both of our books, Suffering is Optional, and the tiny book of Big Manifesting.
So just kind of funny how we're all coming full circle, doing, connected in as one in a way, but in different dimensions or different frequencies or different pieces of the puzzle, I would say. So I have to ask each of you, and let's ask you first, Bill. I want to know what your superpower is.
My superpower is my ability to help people to forgive and to love. And that would be it.
Okay. So I think besides being ambidextrous, because I do count that as a superpower, I think my best superpower is to be able to see what's possible, to be able to see beyond what is right now into what else is possible. And I think it's not even being able to see it. It's about being able to ask the questions, because I ask a lot of questions. But my questions are always, okay, here's how it is now, but what else is available on the planet right now that could be utilized here? So I think that's mine.
Needed. So step into your superpower. And I would love to hear from you, Mr. Bill, about what your last message, parting words are for us.
That to understand that everything has been upside down. You've been told for your entire life, you got to change your thinking. You got to think different. You got to be motivated. You got to forgive that person or love them, or you got to stop being negative. it's not the way you were taught. It turns out that it all starts with a feeling. And that feeling that you have is generated by your nervous system, which in fact is your subconscious. So we get a feeling, we think a thought equal to the feeling, and then we act according to that thought and feeling. And a lot of times, this is not in our best interest to be negative, to do that thing or not do that thing. But we can't help it. It's how we feel. Whether it is dating that person, you know they're no good for you. What does a good girl always want the bad boy, right? All these different things. I know I shouldn't be doing it, but I can't help it. Well, what happens with Cogno movement is we change the feeling. You literally don't feel it, so you don't think it, and you don't do it, right? And on the flip side, the exact opposite. Feel the feeling that is resourceful. Automatically, you will think the resourceful thought and do the resourceful thing. It's as simple as that. You can do it. You can change the feeling, but you need a good tool to do that. And that's what Cogno movement offers. And a tool that's mechanical that forces a change in the feeling through that nervous system.
Very, very good. Love it. So we all have the power, the superpower, to control how we react, how we respond, how we feel. And it's kind of an analyzation. I talk about that in the book of Emotional Intelligence. You're gonna access that part now. We're not gonna ignore it anymore. We're basically calling it to the surface and analyzing the situation before we react. So there's a lot of superpowers being activated all over this planet right now, and we just helped you do that. So thank you for joining us today and learning from some of the most amazing people that are here on this planet to teach you new things for the new Earth. Thank you.
Thanks, Noelle.